Your bank account shows numbers going down, but there's another ledger you're not tracking, the one that records what each purchase does to your character. And every time you justify an expensive item because it's quality, you're writing an entry you can't see. For centuries, wise teachers tracked virtue first, wealth second. They understood that money flows toward those who discipline desire, not those who refine it. But modern life flipped the script. We're told that discernment, buying the best, is itself a virtue. It's not. It's desire dressed in tweed. Here's what ancient wisdom knew. The moment you need quality to feel satisfied, you've surrendered the freedom that builds actual wealth. Your character ledger just went into the red, and unlike your bank account, there's no statement showing you the damage. By the end, you'll know exactly how to balance both ledgers. Connor went from justifying every premium purchase to building systematic wealth in 6 months. But first, you need to see what your quality standards are actually costing you. In this financial education lesson, we're examining what timeless principles reveal about the true cost of buying quality. Most people track money in and money out, never realizing their bleeding character with every transaction they justify. You walk into a store needing shoes. The budget option is $40. The quality option is $180. You choose quality because you're smart, because you're investing, because cheap is expensive. That's the story you tell yourself. Here's what actually happened. You just taught your character that satisfaction requires premium materials. Ancient teachers called this the trap of refined desire. It's more dangerous than crude wanting because it feels virtuous. You're not being frivolous, you're being wise. Except wisdom says, the person who needs expensive things to be content is poorer than the person who needs nothing expensive at all. Think about your last premium purchase. Remember the moment right before you clicked buy. That subtle discomfort with the cheaper option, that feeling that it wouldn't be quite good enough. That's not discernment. That's your character showing you where it's become dependent on external quality to deliver internal satisfaction. The wealthy don't avoid quality, they avoid needing it. There's a difference so profound that most people spend their entire lives in the wrong category, wondering why money never accumulates despite earning decent income. Your character ledger tracks this distinction. Every time you can't be satisfied without premium, that's a debit. Every time you choose adequacy and experience contentment anyway, that's a credit. Balance the character ledger first. The bank ledger follows automatically. Now here's what most financial advice misses entirely. The problem isn't buying quality. The problem is the system you build to justify it. You tell yourself you're saving money long-term. Quality lasts longer, costs less per use, delivers better value. All technically true, all completely irrelevant to what's actually happening inside your financial behavior patterns. Connor experienced this firsthand. 29 years old, graphic designer, salary $3,400 monthly, living alone in a one-bedroom apartment he could barely afford because the finishes were quality. He had convinced himself that surrounding himself with excellence would make him excellent. It started small, quality coffee instead of budget coffee, quality headphones instead of adequate headphones, quality everything because he deserved quality and because quality was an investment in himself. That's what all the advice said. At 1:43 in the morning on a Tuesday in April, Connor checked his bank account before sleeping. $71 until payday, 8 days away. Chest tightened, hands went cold. He opened his budgeting app, something he'd been avoiding for weeks, and spent the next hour tracing where his money actually went. The numbers revealed a pattern he'd been blind to. $420 monthly on premium subscriptions and services he'd justified as quality investments. Another $680 leaked through food and beverage choices that were always the premium option because that's who he'd decided he was, someone who chose quality. His quality standards weren't making him wealthier. They were making him a prisoner to maintaining appearances he'd built for himself. The character cost was absolute. He couldn't tolerate adequacy anymore. He'd trained himself out of contentment with anything less than premium. Here's the brutal truth. Every quality standard you adopt without conscious discipline is a future expense you've locked yourself into. You're not investing in value, you're investing in dependency, and dependency is the opposite of wealth. Ancient principles taught that virtue begins with wanting less, not wanting better. The person who must have premium coffee has less freedom than the person satisfied with hot water. Both cost money, only one costs character. This is where most people stumble. They hear this and think, so I should buy the cheapest everything and live like I'm broke. That's not what timeless wisdom teaches at all. Frugality isn't deprivation, it's architecture. You're building a structure that supports freedom instead of one that demands constant feeding. Quality can exist in that structure, but only in specific strategic places, never as a default, never as an identity. The wealthy practice what ancient teachers called selective elevation. They live simply in 90% of life, so the 10% they elevate actually matters. But most people do the opposite. They elevate everything to quality and wonder why they're financially exhausted. Think about the last time you chose the budget option and genuinely enjoyed it, not tolerated it, enjoyed it. If you can't remember, you've lost something more valuable than money. You've lost the ability to find satisfaction in simplicity. That ability is what actually generates wealth. Connor's turning point came on day 7 of what he started calling his character audit. He bought the store brand pasta instead of the imported Italian brand he always chose, made it with basic olive oil instead of the expensive pressing he kept in his pantry, ate it at his table without streaming anything premium. And it was fine, more than fine. The relief of choosing adequacy and experiencing satisfaction anyway was so profound he actually felt it physically. Shoulders relaxed for the first time in months. The constant low-grade anxiety about money, always wondering if he had enough buffer, started to ease. That's when he understood what the ancient teachers meant. Freedom doesn't come from affording quality. Freedom comes from not needing it to feel whole. The moment you can be genuinely satisfied with basic, you've reclaimed power over every dollar you'll ever earn. Selective elevation means you choose quality strategically, not habitually. Work tools that genuinely improve output, elevate those. Visible status markers that just feed ego. That's where frugality lives. The architecture is intentional, not accidental. Your character ledger stays balanced when you practice this kind of discipline. You're teaching yourself that satisfaction doesn't require premium inputs. And the moment your character internalizes that lesson, wealth accumulation becomes automatic because you're no longer hemorrhaging money maintaining artificial standards. Connor implemented a protocol he called the Virtue Reset. 90 days, 3 phases, 1 goal. Rebuild his character's relationship with adequacy so his bank account could finally breathe. Phase 1, days 1 through 30, visibility. He tracked every purchase decision where he chose quality over adequate, not whether it was right or wrong, just visibility into the pattern. The results shocked him. 47 decisions in 30 days where he chose premium. Average cost difference per decision, $32. Monthly character drain, $1,504 he was spending just to maintain his quality identity. Phase 2, days 31 through 60, substitution. For every premium choice, he deliberately chose adequate and documented the experience. Did satisfaction actually require the expensive version? The answer was almost always no. His brain had just been trained to expect it. Coffee tasted like coffee. Pasta filled him up. Generic detergent cleaned his clothes. The premium versions delivered psychological comfort, not functional superiority. This is where the character ledger started balancing. Each adequate choice that delivered satisfaction was a credit entry. His character was relearning that contentment doesn't require expensive inputs. The relief was measurable. His roommate he'd moved in with someone to cut rent noticed around day 42. "You seem different lately, less stressed." Connor hadn't mentioned the protocol to anyone, but the internal shift was creating external evidence. Phase 3, days 61 through 90, selective elevation. Now he reintroduced quality, but only in 3 specific categories he'd identified as genuinely valuable. His design software subscription, his running shoes because he ran daily, and his coffee beans because morning ritual actually mattered to his productivity. Everything else stayed adequate. The psychological freedom was profound. By day 90, Connor had accumulated $1,820 in savings. First time in 7 years he'd built a 4-figure buffer, but the number wasn't the transformation. The transformation was internal. He no longer needed premium things to feel like a premium person. His character had rebalanced. 6 months later, his emergency fund hit $6,200. His friend asked how he suddenly had money. Connor's answer: "I stopped making my happiness expensive to maintain." That's the protocol. Visibility first, so you see the pattern. Substitution second, so you retrain the character. Selective elevation third, so quality serves you instead of enslaving you. 90 days from start to finish. The discipline compounds after that. Here's the actual financial impact of a balanced character ledger. When you stop needing premium to feel satisfied, every dollar you don't spend becomes a dollar working for your freedom instead of your ego. Connor's $1,500 monthly that had been leaking through quality standards now goes to 3 places. $500 to emergency fund until it hits 6 months expenses, $600 to debt elimination on his remaining credit card balance, $400 to what he calls his liberation account, money that's buying back his time, by building passive income streams. In 1 year, using just the money he stopped spending maintaining quality standards, $6,000 emergency fund fully built, credit card paid off saving him $290 monthly in minimum payments, and $4,800 deployed toward income-generating assets that now return approximately $40 monthly. None of this required earning more. All of it required wanting less premium inputs. The ancient teachers had a term for this, virtue compound interest. When your character learns to find satisfaction in simplicity, the financial benefit multiplies across every area of life. You're not just saving money on pasta. You're saving money on everything your character no longer needs to be expensive. But here's what makes this sustainable. Connor didn't become cheap, he became free. There's a difference. Cheap people deny themselves and resent it. Free people choose adequacy and celebrate it because they understand what they're gaining. True wealth isn't about affording premium everything. True wealth is about premium becoming optional rather than necessary. When you can enjoy both the $40 meal and the $4 meal without your character keeping score, you've achieved financial freedom regardless of your bank balance. That's the virtue ledger working. Your character stops measuring satisfaction by input cost and starts measuring it by internal contentment. Money accumulates naturally as a side effect of that internal shift. Right now, grab your phone, open your bank app, look at your last 30 days of transactions. For each purchase, ask, was this adequate or elevated? If elevated, did I choose quality for function or for feeling? Be honest, your character already knows the answer. Find the 3 expenses where you chose premium to maintain an identity instead of solve a problem. Subscriptions that signal sophistication, brands that broadcast taste, standards that just feed ego. Add them up, multiply by 12, that number, that's the annual cost of an expensive character. It's what you're paying to maintain a self-image that requires premium inputs. Tomorrow morning before work, choose adequate in one place where you usually choose quality, just one, and notice what happens. Does satisfaction actually require the expensive version, or did your character just demand it because that's what you've trained it to expect? Balance your virtue ledger first. Track what each purchase does to your character's ability to find satisfaction in simplicity. When that ledger is balanced, your bank ledger follows automatically. Comment ledger balanced if you found your character debits and chose adequacy at least once. If you're the type who understands that freedom comes from wanting less instead of affording more, the video on screen shows you how to build wealth through discipline instead of income. And drop in the comments what's the quality standard that's been draining your wealth without you realizing it. Let's balance these character ledgers together.